on August the 11th of 2019, Brian Hovekamp invited his friend Chris to go play golf. And so they did. They went out and played a round of golf at Seneca Park Golf Course. It was a sunny Sunday afternoon. They played the first 9 holes without incident. You'll hear from Brian that these guys knew each other for a couple of decades. They were good pals. At the end of the 9th hole, the golf courses are set up to kind of dump you off back near the clubhouse at the end of 9, and then you can go play 9 more after that. And so you'll hear that Brian and Chris stopped off there. Chris ran inside to grab something, use the restroom, grab a snack or whatever. And then they were going to proceed to play the last half of the round of golf, the other 9 holes. And to get to the 10th hole at Seneca Golf Course, you have to cross from the clubhouse, the area there, you have to cross Pee Wee Reese, which is a 2-lane road, to get to the other half of the golf course. And as they crossed the road, they were hit pretty square on, T-boned, by a Mustang driven by the defendant. And this was captured on surveillance because on the corner of the clubhouse you can see the cart path and also Pee Wee Reese, so the collision is captured on a surveillance video that you'll see during this trial. And I'm going to go ahead and play it for you right now. As you've already heard from the court, this is just kind of an outline. This is not evidence. This is me just presenting a roadmap, basically, of what you're going to see. And when this gets queued up, it's going to happen real fast. And you're probably going to want to see it again and again, and that's fine. I'm going to play it once right now. I trust that this will be entered into evidence in this case, and when you go to deliberate, you can watch any of this media or these photos or anything that comes out in the trial. Y'all can look at that, take your time, watch any of it as many times as you need to in order to reach a verdict in this case. And I know this is a small screen, but if you see the gentleman in the red shirt get out of that golf cart, I don't think this shows up on the television screen, but you'll see him run. He's in the center now. He's going to run right to left. And that'll give you a little bit of a demonstration on, he's going to check on the victims here. So Brian was thrown to about where he is now, and he's sprinting down to where Chris's body came to a rest down the roadway. As you might imagine, a number of people called 911, and people are just trying to figure out what's going on here.
911 operator Starks, where is your emergency? There's been an accident with a car and a golf cart like from Seneca Park Golf Course. He says that it's two seriously injured, one dragged by the car. Okay, hold on. You said Seneca Park? Seneca Park, Pee Wee Reese Road, right from Seneca Park Golf Course. Okay, it looks like somebody has already called it in, so we do have everybody on their way. So you said there is 2 injured? Yes, 2 seriously injured. Male, female? 2 males, and one was drugged by a car about 100 yards. Okay, one male was drugged by the car? Yes, and the car was 3 guys in a red Mustang that hit the golf cart as it was crossing Pee Wee Reese Road. Okay, the vehicle, or the male that was dragged, is he moving? I don't think so. His head's bleeding. Okay, do you know if he's conscious or anything? And there's 3 black males in the car, and one of them's got the lead. Okay, do you know if the male is conscious? I don't know. I'm standing off the side. I don't think he is. Okay. And you said there's 3 black males in the red Mustang? Yes, the red Mustang's in the lead off to the left. And there's guys approaching the 3 black males right now. Okay, they're asking who was driving. Okay. There needs to be some police here for him.
We've already got police and EMS all on their way.
All right, this is not going to be good.
Are they acting like they're going to try to leave?
No, they're here, but the guys are arguing.
Okay, so there's people arguing now?
Yes.
With the 3 black males?
Yeah.
Okay, I've updated the responders to let them know what's going on.
All right,
Is something going on?
they're blaming each other. Now the guys won't let the 3 black guys leave.
Okay, well, we've got it up. We've got police and EMS all on their way. Okay? Okay, we're getting somebody else. If anything changes, just call us back, okay?
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Chris ultimately succumbed to his injuries and passed away as a result of this collision. Brian, who was on the other side, he was driving the golf cart, so he didn't take quite the brunt of it, and he managed to survive. But he was very seriously physically injured by this collision. You'll hear from him about his injuries. He'll testify here in a couple days. He is still dealing with this stuff today. He's got chronic back pain, pain in his shoulder. He's got some nerve damage to his leg, severely injured his neck, and still dealing with those issues. Now, the defendant's car prior to this was not captured on any video surveillance, but we know to have gotten there, he would have been traveling northbound on Pee Wee Reese Road. But we do have in-car video from one of the responding officers, from Officer Basler, who was one of the traffic unit officers that responded to work up this collision. And that video captures the path that the defendant would have had to have traveled down to get to this point in the roadway there in front of the golf course. And so this is going to start off with Officer Basler is on Taylorsville at this intersection right now. He's going to hook a right, and he's going to be going northbound on Pee Wee Reese. And you can see the path and the markings that are along the roadway going up towards the golf course. Speed limit 25 miles an hour. Crosswalk signs and markings there for pedestrians. And the golf cart crossings here at the top of the hill. Rumble strips to warn you what's going on ahead. And I know it's a little difficult to see on this monitor, but between that marked LMPD cruiser and that other police car is the warning sign, the golf cart crossing sign. That one there. And that's the crosswalk where Brian and Chris were when they were struck. They made it almost all the way across. They were right here in this area. Because you can see where you can piece it together from the surveillance, but also where there's skid marks from when their golf cart, when they got T-boned by the defendant, they were pushed sideways. The cart ultimately spun and came to a rest where you see it down there. The defendant's car kept going down the roadway. That Jeep Wrangler in the next photo is behind this cruiser here. And his car didn't come to a rest until it made it down there in the grass next to the 9th fairway. And a fresh 12 pack of beer that they'd pitched out of the car was laying over there in the grass, recovered by Officer Batson. And this is not to scale, but it's just a bird's eye view illustration that Officer Batson prepared to just give a little outline of where the collision occurred down here, spun their cart around, slung their bodies down the roadway. Brian and then Chris brought them down. Police and EMS respond to the scene. Police and EMS are, of course, tending to the victims, but one of the primary things that the police were trying to do on the scene was to secure the scene, rope everything off, try to figure out what's going on. Officer Flannery was one of the first officers on scene, with assistance from the 911 callers as well as the folks on scene. They were able to identify who was in the red Mustang, and that was the defendant and two other individuals. Here's a short clip of his interaction with them, and this is one of the reasons we know that the defendant was driving that car. It's because he said he was.
Okay, so I'm driving. I just come in, and it just, I know this over here, they play golf over here. Okay. But you see, I come, and you stop. I can't stop too, because that was the standard. There's a sheep stop. Okay. That's okay, I'm driving. Okay.
I'm driving. I know they play golf out here. I'm pleased. Thank you. I know they play golf out here. It's a sunny Sunday. The park's packed. We saw how many people were running out there after the collision. There's people everywhere. He stopped. Well, we just saw the surveillance. We know he didn't. So either he's lying to cover his tracks and shift blame, or maybe his perception was totally off about how exactly that collision occurred. I couldn't stop too. I don't disagree with him there. He couldn't. The evidence will show that he couldn't at that point because of the situation that he had created. But how do we know he couldn't stop? He couldn't stop because he was traveling entirely too fast for that area. And we know that by analyzing the CDR. CDR stands for collision data recorder. In some vehicles, these are called an EDR, an event data recorder. Those are technical terms for what we often refer to as a black box. It's a tough box that's inside of most modern vehicles, and it logs data from the car. It records all kinds of stuff: speed, pressure on the accelerator pedal, pressure on the brakes, whether or not ABS was engaged, airbag deployment. Some cars they can tell, which seat belts are buckled and all that. Just a lot of data that we're able to glean. And you'll hear from Officer Brian Gillis. He's also a member of the traffic unit. He looked at the data that was pulled off of the data recorder in this case. It gives a snapshot. It looks back 20 seconds prior to the collision. It knows when that event is because the airbag's deployed and it was a significant impact that the sensors in the car were able to pick up and recognize as an event or a collision, and then for a few seconds after. And you'll see all the data on that when Officer Gillis testifies, and there's a lot of numbers involved, but there's a few important things that we can pull for that, some highlights. We know from that data recorder that he was cruising down Pee Wee Reese, a 25-mile-an-hour zone in a crowded park at 55 to 60 miles an hour as he's approaching that blind hill. He lost a little momentum. He was going 53 when he hit the brakes and was able to slow down to 29 before he crashed into Chris and Brian. And then he hit the brakes. The CDR records on that particular vehicle a snapshot every 0.2 seconds, so 5 times a second you're getting data. So it's a pretty clear picture of what you're looking at up to the collision. And he didn't hit his brakes until about 1.4 seconds before he smashed into him. A lot of this stemmed from, and one of the reasons this happened was because he was driving drunk. And we know he was driving drunk for several reasons. When police started interacting with the defendant, they realized that he smelled of alcohol. That's a clue. He told the officer that he drank a bottle of liquor, a bottle of Hennessy. So based on this information, Officer Basler, one of the officers from the traffic unit who's trained in this sort of thing, administered FSTs, what we call field sobriety tests, on him. He did 3. The first one he did was the horizontal gaze nystagmus test, which is a $10 word, but that's the eye test. They're looking for clues in the eyes when you follow a pin or an officer's finger that give them an idea of whether or not you're under the influence of alcohol. And you hear from Officer Basler that during that test, he indicated clues that he was impaired. They didn't limit it to that. They kept doing additional tests. They did the walk and turn test, which is the heel toe, down a line, turn around, do it again. Again, during that test, he demonstrated clues that he was impaired. They did one more test where he was to stand on one leg and count for a period of time. And again, during that test, he demonstrated clues of impairment. They didn't stop there. They want to be sure to not limit this to someone's physical ability or anything else. And so he also administered a PBT, that stands for portable breathalyzer test.
All right, so this is a case in Kentucky. We took you right into court because we didn't want you to miss any of the opening statements. The defendant in this case is Pozo Ilias, and that is his name. He is accused, as you've been hearing through the opening statement, of driving drunk, hitting a golf cart. As a result, one of the individuals, Chris, in the golf cart, was murdered, did pass away, and the other was seriously injured.
So just as an extra precaution, and make sure we're getting this thing right, Officer Basler administered a portable breath test on the defendant. He was cooperative enough to do the test, but during that test, he tried to block it with his tongue, interfering with that to try to make it not get a good reading, because he knew he was drunk, and he was trying to hide it at that point. They did a breath test on, it's called an Intoxilizer 8000, which sounds like something out of a movie, but that's really what it's called. And that is a scientific instrument that is designed to test the blood alcohol content of a person based on a breath sample. So they did one in this case, and his BAC reading was a 160. At the same time, or right after that happened, an RN, who you'll hear from, Lori Hatcher, did a blood draw, and that blood draw was sent off to the Kentucky State Police lab, where forensic scientists looked at that and determined that the blood draw that was contemporaneous in time with that breath test was a 161. An hour after that, they did a second blood test, and that registered a 141 at the lab. And the reason they do those an hour apart is so that they can determine how quickly he processes alcohol, because everybody processes food and alcohol a little bit differently. We all don't have the same metabolism. You'll hear from Dr. Greg Davis about this a little bit, as well as the extrapolation that I'm going to talk about in a second. But it's important to have those so we can know what his metabolic rate is. And we use that for extrapolation purposes. So Dr. Greg Davis, he's a doctor, he works out at UK. He looked at the data in this case and the results of these tests. And the first 2 tests I mentioned, the 160 breath test and the 161, those weren't right there on the scene right after this happened. Those didn't occur until 2 hours later. And so with that 1 hour time gap for the second blood test, we're 3 hours out from when he was driving that car. So we have to work backwards. And we know he wasn't drinking any more alcohol because they were observing him. So at the time of the collision, when he was behind the wheel of the Mustang, his BAC was actually a 195. We've heard that word a lot today. I suspect you'll hear it a lot more. You'll probably hear it from a lot of the witnesses, both lay witnesses and professional witnesses like police officers. It's a word that I try not to use for situations like this because I don't think it really does it justice. That word's more akin to, 1, maybe something small, or 2, maybe something where it was nobody's fault. Maybe I'm carrying something and it slips out of my hand through no fault of my own, that's an accident. Now, no one will stand in front of you and say that the defendant intended to kill Chris Schultz, or that he intended to cause physical injury or serious physical injury to Brian. But he intended to drink. And he intended to keep drinking, and he did, until his BAC was a 195. And then he intended to drink more because he had fresh beer in the car. And he intentionally got behind the wheel of that car. And he drove down Pee Wee Reese in a crowded park, past 25-mile-an-hour signs and through crosswalks at an excessive speed. And it's all that stuff together that makes this a murder for the wanton killing of Chris and an assault in the first degree for seriously injuring Brian and endangering the other two passengers that he had in that vehicle. Thank you.